What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And holy shit, this Eagles team is an absolute mess. They are. They are. We need to admit it. We have to realize facts. We have to realize it. It's just we can't go through every single week saying that, oh, maybe there's something to build off here. Oh, look, there's some positives to take away from there. There is no positives to take away from this Eagles team. I am sorry. It's just facts. It is just facts at the end of the day. I don't care that they're injured. I don't care that they were down A.J. Brown. I don't care that they were down Devontae Smith. I don't care that they were down Lane Johnson. You were facing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that was also very injured. So, kind of you could say it's an even playing field. I don't care that they still had their top weapons. They still had a lot of players that were injured on that team as well. So, you got to find a way. You got to find a way every single time. And this game, Jalen Hurts probably had one of the worst games of his fucking career. Because holy shit, he looked terrible. He looked terrible today. Once again, this goes on Kellen Moore. Once again, failing to realize to use Saquon Barkley early in the game. And this is to the fact that your first play of the game offensively, we'll get to the defense in a little bit because the defense, that was bad. That was terrible to even start this game because defensively, might as well get into the defense now, why not? Defensively, your first two drives, way too easy for Baker Mayfield. Quick throws, no pressure at all, can't make tackles. That's a common theme from his Eagles team for years at this point. This team can't tackle for shit. They're slipping off guys. They're slipping off Godwin. They're slipping off Evans. They're slipping off every single person possible on that Tampa Bay offense. Slipping off Baker Mayfield even when they get a chance to get pressure on the QB. And they barely get pressure on the QB to begin with. Holy shit, to be down 14-0 already, even when your offense is as battered as it is. Definitely do not want to be playing from behind, and you put your offense in a bad hole. But then it goes on to the offense, your first fucking play of the game. Saquon Barkley breaks the entire backfield. He's wide open. Wide open. Jalen Hurts sees him. The worst throw possible I've ever seen in my life. Wasn't even close to on target, goes completely out of bounds, and you just ruin something right there, and then you go 3 and out. This offense had no gel, it had no flow to it whatsoever, and like I said, I don't care that you're missing your top 2 targets. I don't care that you're missing Lane Johnson. Jalen Hurts, if he is supposed to be, you're paying him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, basically. That is what you're paying him to do. When I look at Jalen Hurts right now, this man, if you're supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, shouldn't you find a way? Shouldn't it not matter what weapons that you have available? Shouldn't it not matter if you're supposed to be one of these best quarterbacks in the league? You got to find a way every single week because sometimes you're not going to get the benefit of having your wideouts every single week. There's going to be chances, there's going to be weeks or, games when those guys don't play, when those guys happen to get injured. And that's when you have to find ways to just make the offense flow. You are the leader of the offense. You have to find a way to make it go. You have to find a way to make it mesh. And yes, some of that comes to play calling, not utilizing Saquon Barkley enough. But then when I see Jalen Hurts, this man's decision-making is just flat out terrible. Every time that he is in the pocket, he looks scared, he looks confused, he doesn't know who to throw it to. Dotson finally made his first catch in an Eagles uniform in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, he was your number 1 wide receiver today, and he barely got any targets. Paris Campbell was targeted more than Jahan Dotson, and Paris Campbell got a touchdown in this game. That shows to go you. For some reason, the Eagles just don't want to use him. You gave up a 3rd-round pick for Dotson. Are you scared that he's not meshed into this offense? It's been fucking 3 weeks into a season at this point. We're 4 weeks into a season, and this guy isn't meshed into the offense that much to where you don't want to target him? Are you that scared of his drop rate? Then why did you give a 3rd round pick for him? I want to know the reason why. Why is he on this roster if you're not going to target him at all? And I'm not saying Dotson was the difference maker in this whatsoever. No, it just, if you're down A.J. Brown, you're down Devontae Smith, don't you want to try to utilize Dotson just a little bit? And you don't? That's weird. Then you get Dallas Goedert dropping some balls. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's insane. It's just unreal. And then once again, Jalen Hurts turns the ball over when the Eagles are actually, making some noise in the game to where they can make it a one-score game, which I found even unreal to begin with. You get that, blocked field goal, which returned for 2 points the other way, which could have been a huge turning point in the game if Jalen Hurts didn't fumble the ball. One guy breaks the offensive line. Jalen Hurts avoids the tackle, decides, oh, this is a great time to throw the ball. No awareness in the pocket at all. Doesn't remember that the guy that tried to sack him is right behind him. Decides to throw the ball. Ball gets knocked out with ease, and Tampa Bay returns with it. And also not to forget to mention that Jalen Hurts almost threw an interception as well. That got taken away because it was incomplete. So I'm just trying to figure out the process here. I really am. This game was just a complete mess. Complete mess on all fronts. This team is completely lost. And Nick Sirianni, that goes on. This defense wasn't prepared. Not prepared at all. These players were not prepared whatsoever going into this game. That's a Nick Sirianni issue. And we always come back to the discussion, what the fuck does Nick Sirianni do? Because he has no role in this coaching staff. He does literally nothing, and probably the one thing that he is supposed to do is have his goddamn players prepared. And they weren't. Now, if you want to say defensively, that's a Vic Fangio thing. Yeah, Vic Fangio definitely isn't away from the blame in today's game because his defensive approach was terrible. Getting gashed up all along the way. Couldn't get pressure on Baker. Everything was just quick throws out of the pocket. Everything. Wide open guys, can't tackle whatsoever. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. It's sad and it's embarrassing on how you just cannot make tackles in the NFL. How much you slip off of guys. That is a joke in its own right. But isn't it your job of the head coach to make sure your guys are prepared for anything whatsoever? These guys weren't prepared for shit. They weren't. So what does Nick Sirianni even do? We're just going to go back to those question marks. What does he do? Because obviously it's not working. Whatever he's doing is not working. And it reflects back on the player. Everything this team does reflects back on the head coach. The lack of preparedness. The attitude issues. All of that stuff reflects back on your head coach. The undisciplined. Because, oh boy, this team is still very undisciplined. Did you see some of the plays on punt returns that, you gotta... I forget who it was. I'm not sure if it was Kelly Ringo or something like that, pushing into Cooper DeJean, who was on the return side. I forget who that was, but you got someone pushing a Tampa Bay player into Cooper DeJean, forcing basically, DeJean touches it, and then Tampa Bay recovers it, which you think, oh, it's a penalty on Tampa Bay. Nope, because one of the Eagles players pushed the Tampa Bay guy into Cooper, and it becomes Tampa Bay ball because they landed on the ball. And then you got, I believe it was Avonte Maddox running into Cooper DeJean on a punt return. Like, what the fuck is going on here? I just don't understand. I don't understand. Everything is just a mess. Everything is just so terrible. It is a joke. It is ridiculous. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't. Name me one reason why Nick Sirianni should still be the head coach after this bye week coming up. Name me one reason why Nick Sirianni should still be this head coach of this football team. There is no reason that you can say. There just isn't. Do what's right. But no. Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, they're too chicken shit to fire this guy. Too chicken shit. They were too chicken shit in the offseason to do it because they were afraid of backlash after firing another head coach in so short of time. It's a joke. You should have fired this man in the offseason. Now, granted, I was one of the people that said, okay, I'll give him a clean slate this offseason. Give him a clean slate this season to work the kinks out and all that crap. Nope. It's done because the same shit is happening. You're 3-10 in the last 13 games going back to last season's collapse that Nick Sirianni has been the head coach. You are 3-10 in your last 13. If that's not a sign of issues and just complete dumpster fire, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how no one sees the issues. Because this entire team is just complete turmoil. It is complete turmoil from the head coach on. From the head coach on. No coordinators were saving this garbage. It was going to remain the same after all Nick Sirianni just staying here. Now, yes, not granted, Nick Sirianni being fired, it wasn't going to change everything easy either. But it's a change of atmosphere. You see all these attitude issues with some of these players and everything like that. You see the shit with Jalen Carter last week, all the stuff that Gardner-Johnson does. That reflects back on your head coach. That really reflects back on your head coach. And that's an issue. That is a major issue. We all know the relationship issues with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. It's obvious. It is completely obvious. You see all the stuff that comes out in the offseason from Jeff McClain, Tim McManus, and all that stuff. All the stuff that was going on in the locker room last season. All the turmoil and everything like that. It reflects back on your head coach. And Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman decided to bring this man back and basically strip him of all of his power. And now this is not, taking blame off of Nick Sirianni, because he could have chose the Doug Peterson route and just say, fuck it, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm not doing this shit anymore. I'm out of here. Before it gets even worse. He could have taken that route. Nope, he decided to stay back here because he probably knows that he has no other job in the NFL at this point. No other team would hire Nick Sirianni to be a head coach. That's probably why he chose to stay here. Because he could have opted out and said, fuck it, I'll resign. I'll resign. He just said, nope, I'm staying here. I am staying here. So there's still blame there on the Nick Sirianni front, but your front office and your ownership put you in this position. And I feel like those guys are not taking as much blame as the players, as the coaching staff are. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman definitely deserve, I would say, most of the blame. Because they're the ones that put this roster together. Howie Roseman and the draft picking recently on the defensive side, the defensive front, because Jordan Davis doesn't look like anything special. He just doesn't. And, Jalen Carter, he had a nice game last week against the Saints, but, it's very few of those from the Jalen Carter's perspective. And yes, I get it. Freaking in Tampa Bay, it was very hot down there. It was 90 plus degrees. The humidity made it feel like 100 and something. So that was definitely a grind of a game. But find a way to make a difference in the game. If 36-year-old Brandon Graham is your best player on the defensive front, that is a problem. That is a major problem. Brandon Graham in his swan song, in his last season of his career, dude already stated it many times, this is my last season. If he is your best player, and I love BG to death, dude puts his heart and soul out there every single snap. But if this guy, on his last season of his career at 36 years old, body wearing down, decided to go out on a high note, well, I wouldn't say a high note, but you know what I mean. If he is your best player, how is it not obvious that there's an issue? How is it not obvious? Because it just is. It just is. This team is a dumpster fire from head to toe, and there is no sign of it getting any better. There just isn't. They tried to sell us that this was a Super Bowl contending team. They're not. They are nowhere close to that. Do you watch this team week after week and that screams Super Bowl contender? This team is barely squeak into the playoffs type of team. Barely squeak into the playoffs and probably misses the playoffs. They're that type of team. And maybe they get lucky because the Dallas Cowboys are imploding on themselves and they're a dumpster fire too. Maybe that they'll get the benefit of winning the division because no team in the NFC East wins the division year after year in a row, like 2 years in a row. It's unbelievable. It's insane. Will they fire Nick Sirianni after this week? Probably not. Probably not. I'd be shocked. I'd be honestly shocked if they fired Nick Sirianni this early in the season. Even though they should. They really should. Because it's not going to get any better. So why not take a risk? Why not take a risk? But this is the way it's going to be. This is how I see things playing out overall with the way this entire thing is going. Either Nick Sirianni will be they'll wait till the end of the season to fire Nick Sirianni, or he'll be fired at some point in the offseason. They'll give Jalen Hurts one more shot with a new head coach, get a new voice in there. Maybe since Nick Sirianni isn't in that room, there's no sour relationship and everything like that, they'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts on that front. This is the last year of Nick Sirianni. We all know he's not returning after this year. It's obvious. It's completely obvious. Even Nick Sirianni fucking knows that. He knows he's getting fired at some point. He knows his job is at risk. He completely knows that. It's too obvious at the end of the day. But we can also say that, it's getting very close there for getting very close for Jalen Hurts' job too. And granted, yes, that is a major cap hit to take in if you do find a way to get rid of. I'm not talking about getting rid of Jalen Hurts right now, but that's like more of a future type of thing. You know what I mean? This man is getting paid a boatload of money to be a mediocre quarterback. He just is. And that's what he's performing. For people that have that hope that he's going to regain some type of form that he was in 2022, that's the complete outlier of his career. This is more who he is, because we've seen it all last year, the turnover issues and everything like that, the confusion in the pocket, the ability to read the blitz, the inability to throw up the middle and all that stuff, all these efficiencies that Jalen Hurts has in his game, they're still there. They're still there. And that magic that was the 2022 season from that Jalen Hurts campaign, that is the complete outlier of his career. And this is more what he is. A guy that's afraid in the pocket, a guy that's going to turn the ball over and just can't find a way. He cannot find a way. And right now he is completely an overpaid quarterback. And I was a Jalen Hurts, and I'm more of a Jalen Hurts supporter than not. But at the end of the day, you got to face facts and face reality that is there any saving of this? I have no fucking clue. Because we've seen more bad football than not out of Jalen Hurts in this regime so far lately. I don't care that Nick Sirianni has made the playoffs in his first 3 seasons. You're 3-10 in the last 13 games with him as the head coach. It is a joke. It's completely just a mess. This team will be lucky to win 6-7 games at this rate with the way they play. This is not a contending team. They're not. Not even close to that. So, how do you fix this? I have no idea. It definitely isn't fixed overnight. I can tell you that for free. Definitely isn't fixed in a bye week. Now, will they fire Nick Sirianni on the bye week? I have no fucking clue. I have no fucking clue. They should. They definitely should. But I have no idea if that's going to happen. Because there's going to be so much shit to talk about during this week for the Eagles. It really just is. It really just is. Continue to talk about Bryce Huff's inability to be invisible. Well, not inability to be invisible. He is invisible. This guy literally does nothing on the field. Just does nothing. It's unreal how invisible this guy is everywhere on the field. It just is. Just nothing. Nothing. He has 1 tackle. He has 1 tackle this year. 1 tackle. It just is. And people are going to keep saying it's hard to judge the offense without your top 2 weapons, and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You don't have Lane Johnson, and the Eagles' record proves that they're not as good of a team without Lane Johnson because he means so much to that offensive line. He means so much to this flow of offense. I don't care. I don't care. If you have that quarterback in that room, Jalen Hurts, who is making as much money as he is, you got to find a way. You got to find a way. You got to find a way to hit guys. You got to find a way to get guys involved in the offense. And like I said, this also goes back on Kellen Moore. If you have a hot hand there in Saquon Barkley, give him the fucking ball. But what I've seen from Jalen Hurts today, the throws were completely horrible. Just completely terrible. And it all you just got to look at that first throw in the first drive to Saquon Barkley. Wide open, this dude throws it out of bounds. Not even close to Saquon. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. That's all you need to know. That is all you need to know from this game, from Jalen Hurts' performance. He was 18 of 30 today for his completions per attempts. 158 yards. He was sacked 6 times. He had a QB rating of 85.1. Saquon Barkley, he only had 10 carries today for 84 yards. He wasn't utilized enough. Jalen Hurts ran the ball 8 times for 20 yards. Dallas Goedert, he had 8 targets for 62 yards, 7 receptions. Saquon Barkley had 2 targets. Alcantara had a target. Paris Campbell had 4 targets. And looking at Jahan Dotson, okay, Paris Campbell and Jahan Dotson, they had 4 targets each. Dotson had 2 catches in this game. Paris Campbell had the touchdown. It's just completely crazy. And there's really nothing to go over defensively. Once again, you have guys that are leaving due to injury. I believe Reed Blankenship was injured in this game. I believe Jalen Carter left with an injury in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So, injuries are going to keep them piling up. They just are. They just are. And I don't see any end in sight right now. And I'm really trying to see if there's anything post-game from Nick Sirianni's perspective. I don't think there is. I don't think there is right now, unless he is talking right now, unless he's waiting to talk. I don't know. 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 But just looking at some more stats team-wise. If I'm looking at the penalties, 5 penalties in this game, still very undisciplined. When it comes to the offensive line, when it came to stuff on punt returns, specifically the one player that was pushing one of the Tampa Bay defenders into Cooper DeJean. Like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing? I don't understand. Why? Why are we taking these dumb penalties? It was unreal. Unreal. It just is. Yeah. Got away with it last week. You got bailed out by talent last week. We're not able to get bailed out today. Nowhere close to getting bailed out. Nowhere close. Just look at Baker Mayfield today. Look at that. 30 of 47. 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 sacks. He had a quarterback rating of 100. Look at some of the receivers. Mike Evans, he had 94 yards. Chris Godwin had 69. Otten had 52 yards. Shepard had 51. White had 35. Look at some of their rushing yards. Irvin had 49 yards. Rashad White had 49 yards. Baker Mayfield rushed for one of the touchdowns where he completely faked out Brandon Graham on the goal line. So that was weird and everything there. This team is just bad. There's no sugarcoating it. This team is just bad. They are just insanely bad. What else is there? What else is there? I don't even think there's anything right now from Nick Sirianni, if I'm seeing anything here. What else? Anything else here from? Well, we got Ruben Frank's article here on NBCSportsPhilly.com. I kind of want to read this article and just show it to you guys here. Let's see. This is not gonna. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I just want to read this shit. I looked down at my laptop through the second quarter, and the Bucks had 255 yards, and the Eagles had 0 yards. There was a stretch where the Eagles were just not gaining anything. If I just look at some of the plays throughout this game, yeah, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then they eventually got the touchdown. Then 3 and out. Crazy, absolutely crazy stuff here, boys. Crazy stuff. You really don't have to be much of a football expert to understand this is not good. In fact, it's impossibly, unbelievably, astonishingly bad. The Eagles just didn't lose a football game in Tampa 33-16. They embarrassed themselves. They were so thoroughly outplayed on both sides of the football, it looked like they hadn't practiced or prepared all week. If that score looks remotely competitive, it was 21-0 a few plays into the second quarter, and it was already over. Yeah, the Eagles were missing a bunch of really good players, but that's no excuse for the slop we saw out there on Sunday, especially in the first half. They just seemed out of it. Yeah, it was hot. Yeah, it was their third road trip. It was their third road trip in 4 weeks, including a trip to Brazil and a Monday night game, but there was no excuses. Let's get to some 10 observations from this game. So I'm just going to read this shit from Ruben Frank's article. Why not? Because he points out a lot of good things. So, 10 observations. Here's his first one. Just when you were starting to feel good about the Eagles' defense, this happens. Just a complete breakdown in every phase of the game. Everything the Eagles did right a week earlier against New Orleans, they did wrong on Sunday in Tampa. Their tackling was horrifying, just unbelievably bad. Missed tackles all over the place, maybe 20 of them. Is there a record is there a record for that? Question mark. Guys were out of position all over the field. Once again, they didn't get any takeaways. They allowed a big play after big play. They finally got a sack from an edge for the first time in 8 games, then immediately gave the ball right back to the Bucs on special teams for a turnover. Yeah, that was when Brandon Graham got the sack, and then all that crap on the punt return happened. I do remember that. They were down 24-0 halfway through the first half, and that's ball game. The rest was just a matter of determining the final score. The Bucs had 219 yards, 3.5 minutes into the second quarter. The Saints last week had 219 yards the entire game. This was something out of the Matt Patricia playbook. They looked unprepared, unmotivated, and incompetent. You never want to question effort, but for most of the first half, it was like the Bucs were playing against air. 9 of their first 28 plays went for 13 yards or more. It got a little bit better, but not much. I don't care who you're playing. If you're not mentally and physically prepared, this is what happened. His second observation, and then there's the offense. As wretched as the defense was in the first half, the offense may have actually been worse. Their first 3 drives netted -5 scrimmage yards, or -10 if you want to include penalty yards. I believe Kellen Moore did a nice job as play caller for the first 2 weeks, but this was an offensive catastrophe, and missing a bunch of starters, including maybe their 3 best offensive players, is no excuse for this level of, I don't know, lethargy? Question mark. There is no excuse for having a negative yardage total while the other team has already scored 4 times. The offense did some really good things in the first few weeks, but when they're at their full strength, they should be borderline unstoppable. But even without AJ and Devontae and Lane Johnson, they should be better than this. Way better. They managed 226 yards, 16 first downs, and 113 net passing yards, and allowed 6 sacks against the NFL's 28th ranked defense. Unacceptable. Jesus Christ. Observation 3. What does it mean when a team gets outscored 24-0 and outgained 255-0 in the first 23 minutes? It means it just wasn't ready to play football at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Tampa, Florida, and that's completely on Nick Sirianni. When you're a CEO head coach and you're not calling plays, a big part of your job is getting the team mentally and physically ready to play, and that includes the way that you practice, the way you run walkthroughs, the way you watch film, the way you warm up before a game. And the reality is this football team just wasn't ready for the game to start. And it wasn't just this game. The Eagles trailed the Packers 6-0 after the first quarter. They didn't score a point in the first quarter against the Falcons, and they were scoreless in the fourth quarter until the fourth quarter in New Orleans last week. They've gone 6 straight games without scoring a first quarter point. And their last fourth quarter touchdown was scored by Julio Jones, for crying out loud. But this was worse than all of those. My God. My goodness. Observation number 4, you really want to cut Jalen Hurts some slack being out there without Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Britton Covey, not to mention Lane Johnson, but he just looked out of it for much of this game, and I don't care who your receivers are. You go out there and run the offense with crispness and a clarity and energy, but the Eagles didn't even record a first down until they trailed 24-0 with 6.5 minutes left in the second quarter, and I'm not sure if Jalen was the worst of the offense's problems during that stretch when they got outscored 24-0. But if you're an MVP candidate type of guy, you need to be able to help pull your team out of that kind of morass. I don't know what that means. But we saw balls flying 10 feet over Jahan Dotson's head or 5 yards out of bounds. Hurts was 1 for 7 for 7 yards on those first 3 drives. Just looked out at sync, off kilter, whatever you want to call it. He calmed down a bit briefly, threw a touchdown to Paris Campbell, and then drove the Eagles inside the Tampa Bay 20, but then another turnover. He fumbled on a strip sack by Levante David with the Eagles inside the Bucs 20-yard line. That's turnover 7 this year for Jalen Hurts. He's finished with just 158 passing yards, took 6 sacks, and looked just bad. I keep waiting for 2022 Jalen Hurts to show up. He will eventually, right? Right? Question mark. I don't think he will, Ruben. Observation number 5. One thing to keep in mind is that after the bye, the schedule gets much easier. Their first 4 opponents are currently a combined 9-6, and 3 of them have winning records. Their first 9 opponents after the bye, are 10-23, and only the Commanders have a winning record at 2-1 with the game later Sunday in Arizona. That's one winning team in the first 9 games back. In particular, their next 4 opponents, the Browns, Giants, Bengals, and Jaguars, are combined 3-12. So as ugly as this loss was, 2-2 isn't the worst place to be with 4 games coming up that look pretty winnable. Of course, if they play like they played Sunday in Tampa, it really won't matter who they play. Observation number 6. The Eagles' turnover issues are just flat out a flat out epidemic at this point. They were -2 Sunday, no interceptions but 2 fumbles, one by Jalen Hurts and one by Cooper DeJean on a punt return that really wasn't his fault. And now they've gone an astonishing 12 straight games without finishing in positive territory in the giveaway takeaway ratio. That's impossible. It's the second longest streak in franchise history, the longest since a 15-game streak over the 1967 and 1968 seasons, and they're -15 in those 12 games. They have 2 takeaways all year, both by Reed Blankenship, and that's their fewest after 2 games since they had won 4 games into 98 season. It's worded really weird. And get this. This is the first time ever the Eagles have been a -1 or worse in a turnover margin in each of their first 4 games. What does this all mean? Pretty simple. Not enough playmakers on defense, and Jalen has to stop giving the ball away, especially in the red zone. The Eagles are 22-1 under Nick Sirianni with 22 straight wins. When they win the turnover battle, it's been 22-1 for a long, long time. My God. My God. And it says more coming, so he really even hasn't finished this stuff yet. So does he get the takeaway number 7? No, he does not right here. My God. Observation number 7. We're never going to find that out from Ruben Frank. My goodness. I'm really trying to see if there's anything here on Nick Sirianni postgame. Really, I'm trying to see. Here we go. Here's something from John Clark. The fundamentals weren't what they needed to be. We need to make some changes with that, and what we are doing fundamentally. We had some missed tackles and drops in the beginning. We didn't coach well enough, and it starts with me. Of course, Nick Sirianni is going to take the blame for everything. I'm not shocked at that route. Definitely not shocked at that route whatsoever. Definitely not shocked at that route. Nick Sirianni says he will do a deep dive in the fundamentals this week. He said it starts with the details and the fundamentals. Shouldn't that be shit that you deal with at training camp? Shouldn't that be shit that is dealt at training camp? I'm being honest. We're 4 weeks into the season, and we're talking about fundamentals. We're talking about fundamentals, boys. We're talking about fundamentals. Oh, man. Anything else here on the timeline? Anything else here that stands out? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm trying to see if there's any more updates from this Ruben Frank article. I don't think there's going to be right now. He's probably waiting for Nick Sirianni to stop talking, and maybe he'll draw some observations from there. But, yeah, we're definitely in waiting mode to see if there's anything else here from Nick Sirianni's perspective. I don't think there's going to be anything that's interesting on that front, but a man can dream. A man can definitely dream there. My God. My God. My God. My God. This team is just not good. I think that's just the bottom line. This team is not good at all. This team is not good at all. So let's see, what else is there? What else is there? Don't think there is anything else, if I'm not mistaken. So, yep, just fundamental stuff, blah, blah, blah. Any other things from this post game? I don't think there is. Avonte Maddox talking about the conditions were really tough out there, but they have to be better. It was hot as fuck. I cramped up. My God. My goodness. Talking about the weather, blah, 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 blah. Really don't think there's going to be much, I guess, that stands out from Nick Sirianni's press conference, which I am not shocked at. It's probably going to be the same shit like you just said there. Going to be, on me, blah, 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 all that stuff, and really nothing there. He's going to take accountability. I don't know what we're going to hear from Jalen Hurts at the end of the day. I guess we'll find out when that's the case. But I don't even know if I have the time for all that crap. I don't think I do. Don't think I do. Oh, man. Oh, man. Goddamn Eagles, boys. They do so much shit here to drive us absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. It really is. It really is crazy. It really is. I come back from my vacation, not a worry in the world, not focused on anything, don't have to care about Phillies sports because the Phillies clinched everything and all that crap. And then I come back, and the first thing I witness is that. Well, technically, actually, the first thing I witnessed was Matt Mitchkoff being amazing in a preseason game for the Flyers last night with the overtime goal and all of that. That was fun. But then this. But then this. Oh, man. Oh, man, it sucks. It sucks so badly. I wish I was back on vacation. Not gonna lie. I wish I was still on vacation. Can't do anything about that, though. Always gotta get back to the grind, and sadly, the grind is dealing with this fucking football team on a weekly basis. So, yeah. We got some guys here in the live chat. We'll get to that. Nothing here on the Anytime Hotline, so really don't have to worry about that at the moment. I do want to refresh the Ruben Frank article to see if there's anything else. Nope, there's nothing else there, so probably won't be updated until, like I said, after the next Sirianni stuff. He's probably going through everything right now, so never know. Never know. Sir Philly, how you doing, man? This was the most embarrassing game I've ever seen from Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I agree. Yep, couldn't tackle for shit. Everything was just terrible today, boys. Everything was just flat out terrible. It's crazy. Crazy. Bryce Huff and Puff that was really doing much. What were the rumors this week about the Hassan Reddick stuff, and then Bryce Huff disabling all of his Eagle stuff from his social accounts? Oh boy, this man signed here, realized that he's shit, and realized that he's being overpaid, and doesn't want to deal with the consequences. Maybe you should have just paid Hassan Reddick. Maybe you should have just paid him. Just being honest. Nick Cyanide, a true cancer to this team. I'm almost rooting for this team to lose, so more so he gets fired. Oh, he's getting fired regardless. I don't think it matters how many times they lose. Maybe it does accelerate the fact. But he's getting fired regardless. Eagles need to fire Nick. Wow, we aren't going anywhere if we continue down this route. That is definitely true, Thomas. 100% true. Fire Nick Sirianni. Fire this clown now. So we're Tampa Bay missing a lot of players. Tampa can't lose up to a Patriot. Yep. The ageless Julio Jones. Is Roddy White in there? I have no idea. I didn't see anything like that. I put them in a parlay to win by 1.5 points. Jesus. What are the other scores around the league right now? Because I know there was some crazy stuff here. So Denver beat the Jets. Wow. That was the lowest scoring game ever. My goodness. Minnesota beat Green Bay. Sam Darnold continues to be crazy. Okay. Falcons, they barely squeezed one out against New Orleans. The Bengals beat Carolina, but I think Joe Burrow, no, he didn't get injured. He played the entire game. Jacksonville, they lost to Houston after leading. That was interesting. Doug Peterson most likely getting fired. The Colts, they beat the Steelers, so the Steelers are no longer undefeated. Right now, the Commanders, they're beating the Cardinals 14-7. The 49ers, they're beating New England 13-0. Cleveland just started with Las Vegas, and the Chargers are beating Kansas City 10-0 currently. Interesting stuff here, boys. Interesting stuff. 100% indeed. And I'm going to refresh the Twitterverse just to see if there's anything else here. Anything else here on the Eagles side? I don't think there is. No. Nope. Don't think there is. So, I think that is where we cut it off for today, boys. This team stinks, and we have to come to the realization of that. They just do. Now, they're on the bye week, and yeah, in that Ruben Frank article, he did talk about the schedule definitely getting indeed easier. So, after the bye week, you're home against the Cleveland Browns for another 1 o'clock game. Then you're on the road against the Giants for another 1 o'clock game. You're on the road in Cincinnati against the Bengals, 4:25 game. Then you got a Sunday night game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, God, that is going to be terrible. Then you have a game in Dallas on November 10th at 4:25. Then you have a Thursday night game against the Commanders at home. Then another Sunday night football game against the Rams in Los Angeles. Then a 4:25 game against the Baltimore Ravens, a 1 o'clock game against Carolina, a 4:25 game against Pittsburgh, a 1 o'clock game against Washington, a 4:25 against Dallas, and then the final game of the season against the Giants. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there, boys. Lawrence has got him the sack. He's gone for. Boys. I don't know what to do here. I don't know what else to do with this team. They just suck. So that'll do it for today, everybody. I appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So back from vacation, back to the normal routine. This week is definitely going to be weird. So it's going to be very weird. Very, very, very weird because Phillies, obviously, they're on the bye week for the wild card. First game is until Sunday, and we still don't know who they're playing yet because there's still got a lot to be decided here in terms of matchups and everything like that. Even the final wildcard spots for the NL are not decided yet because there's so much craziness going along there. So we'll see what happens with that front. So I'm not sure when to get the Phillies. Maybe when all that stuff is decided and all said and done. So we'll decide there. Maybe we'll have another Eagles video this week. Dissecting some stuff. We'll see. So it's all play by ear stuff this week. Maybe we'll have some hangout streaks and stuff. Talk about some things. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do some live streams to talk during the wild card series games. We'll see. It's all play by ear stuff. You'll see pop up in your subscription feed when it does. So I appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Do not forget to drop a like. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in today. Eagles suck.